So, welcome to our session on how engineers can make intentional career transitions in under 90 days. There's a lot to that. A lot of different words: transition, intentional. There's a time frame, and it's all possible. Can't guarantee that anything's going to happen under 90 days. There's a whole lot of variables, but um, we're going to be talking about a whole lot of principles here that I hope are helpful for you and to consider. What does being intentional really mean? How can you create a life and a career that you're really excited about? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And as we go through this, we're going to be talking about uh, the what I call the next level engineering career formula, and kind of building this out and what the process is as a formula and a process to make this intentional career transition. As we go throughout our session today, I'm going to be using a tool I call Quick Chat. It's really simple. It's simply where that allows us to kind of engage a little bit. I'm going to ask you a question here on the slides, and I want you to type your answer into the chat box, but don't press enter to actually submit it until we do a little bit of a countdown. What that does is kind of allows us all to have the responses come in simultaneously. It's a little bit more fun. So just to kind of start here, I'm curious, where are you joining us from? Where are you at in the world? So type your answer into the chat box here in Zoom. I'll give you just a couple moments to do that. All right, very good. And we'll go ahead and go 3, 2, 1, go. Rod's already got it. Redmond, Washington, New Mexico, Austin, very good. And I'm in Pullman, Washington. So we got some a little bit of representation throughout this. So we'll do this a few times throughout our session day, just to kind of stay engaged and connect with each other a little bit more. If we haven't met, there's some of you I have and some of you I haven't met. I founded More Than Engineering about 4 years ago. I was just thinking about it. It was about today was when I had 4 years ago today when I had my last day in my corporate job before I left and created More Than Engineering. My background is in mechanical software and manufacturing process improvement and engineering leadership. I'm now the father of 4 beautiful children. The oldest just started school today, and the next one will go to kindergarten starting next week. So excited for her. And I like getting outside, hiking, reading, and pickleball. And I'm in the midst of writing a book called The Intentional Engineer. And if anyone's interested in that, there's ways to kind of follow along with that work as well. I'm in the editing stage right now, so I'm excited about that. Hope to get out in the next couple months or so. But really, so much of what I'm about is helping engineers unlock their potential to create change in their careers and lives. So that's just a little bit about me. But I wanted to start off talking about a little bit of a story. This is Jay. Jay was an international student when he had just graduated with his master's degree in 2019, but he had some visa issues that made it so that he couldn't legally work in the United States for a few months due to those things. They finally got resolved in February of 2020, and he started getting some job interviews and different things like that. But of course, the pandemic hit in March, and all of that shut down. And so he was trying to figure out, what do I do? He was dealing with kind of crippling student loans. He was actually working at that time minimum wage at a gas station just to get some money coming in to make some ends meet. Seemed like everything was stacked against him. This is kind of the situation he was at when we first met. In the end, though, we worked together, and he utilized some of the tools and resources and activities that we're going to be talking about today, and eventually landed up getting 3 different job offers. He's now thriving. Every time I've talked to him, he's excited. In fact, I was just hearing from him the other day. He's perhaps going to make another career transition to a new company. He's looking for his next growth opportunity. He bought his dream car. He had created a vision board. He said, "This is the car I want to buy." He and his wife bought that. And even once he started his first job, he got his first promotion in less than a year, in about 8 months. So a lot of progress in a little bit of time, and just more and more great success for him. So all because he used some of the same tools, tactics, strategies we're going to be talking about today. But I'm curious where all of you are, right? So where are you at in your career right now? What are you experiencing? Where are you at? And so this is sort of a visual guide to say, okay, where am I at right now? You can look in the different levels, the numbers 1 through 5. Perhaps if you're unemployed, that's kind of level 1, you're feeling overlooked. Maybe you're just in that mode in your career where you've got a job, but you're just sort of in survival mode, doing what feels obligatory, not very happy, maybe a little bit of money, just enough to get by, but certainly not thriving. A lot of people I meet are at level 3. Maybe they're in a career that's okay. They're getting paid all right. Maybe on the outside everything's great, but they're disengaged and not really engaging in their passions, and they feel like maybe there's more here because they've been a little bit opportunistic in their careers thus far, and just sort of taking what's been given to them thus far. But you can see there's sort of this dividing line. And the key word in this dividing line, and what gets you over the edge here from level 3 to level 4, is this act of being intentional, that leads to greater financial success, usually more happiness, purposeful growth in our careers, and then eventually can lead to us increasing our impact even more, and perhaps delivering our life's work, and that success that we have going beyond just how we feel about our lives and our careers, right? So take a look at this and consider, where are you at in your career? And we'll do another one of these quick chats. I'm curious, where do you find yourself? And just tell me level 1 through 5. Just, you can type the number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 in on that diagram. I'll go back here. But tell us where you're at, and I'll give you just a couple seconds to do that. Go 3, 2, 1, go. Just curious where people are at. Got some 2s, 3s, and 4s, kind of all over the place. Yeah, and I expect a range here, right? So no matter where you're at, 2, 3, 4, or if ever you've been at level 1, it's good to just recognize that, and then start to kind of open up that gap in your mind to say, how do I move up? If I'm a 2, how can I at least get to 3 and start getting paid better? If I'm a 3, how can I really be more intentional and get to 4, and start growing more intentionally? And then if I'm 4, how can I design even further and think about, how do I expand this impact even more and get to my life's work eventually? So it's some good things to think about. And so my promise for today, I really hope that by the end of this training, you're going to find that you have some clear actions and adjustments that you need to make an intentional career transition or an upgrade. I'm going to teach you the next level engineering career formula and how you can apply it right away. And so the invitation for you is to be present, to engage with the session, with the ideas, put the cell phone away, eliminate other distractions, actively participate, take notes, see what you discover. And then what I don't have on here, but I really want to emphasize, is find something that you can take action on. Because if you don't do anything based on what you hear, then what's the point of spending this time learning these things unless you put it into action, right? I hope this is a different kind of webinar. I do have an opportunity for a few people to work with me one-on-one in my program, but you're going to get value out of our session today, whether or not you decide to do that. So hopefully you're ready. I'm going to take a quick drink, and then we will get started. Okay, and we're going to build out this next level engineering career formula. And this builds out in kind of a pyramid we're going to start. But any pyramid or any structure needs to have a great foundation. So this is level 1. And the foundation for your career success and making a career transition is a few things that I've found. Part of it starts with our mindsets, because our mindsets and how we think about ourselves and the world and our opportunities and challenges that we face has a huge impact on how we go through the world. We need to have career clarity to know where we want to go and why, because that helps us with the focus and also the motivation to move through the opportunities. We also need to get clear on what our personal brand is. How do we clearly communicate the value that we deliver to the world, to potential employers or clients, right? So all these things combine to create a solid career foundation. And it doesn't take us too much time to think about what happens if we don't have a foundation. Obviously, it was an actual structure, then things are going to crumble, not going to go very well, especially if there's any earthquakes or anything. But in our careers, what I see people without foundations is they're driven by fear. They don't believe that they're good enough. They have a hard time clearly communicating the value that they bring to the workplace. And eventually what breaks my heart is they get so frustrated that they just kind of get apathetic and they stop trying, right? And it's just so hard to watch. Maybe some of these things sound familiar to you and feelings that you experience now or have experienced in the past. But on the flip side, if we can establish a solid career foundation, then a few really important things happen. We can strengthen our mindset so that we can start to see challenges as not just obstacles in our lives, but as opportunities to grow and develop who we are and gain new skills and learn new things, right? We can have clarity and narrow the focus in where we're headed and where we want to go and who we want to become in our lives. We can have confidence in the path that we're treading, and we can have a personal brand that clearly communicates who we are as a person and a professional and the value that we can bring, right? So just sort of a self-assessment to consider: how strong is your foundation? These are a few questions that can help you identify how strong your foundation is right now. So do I have the confidence to make this career shift if you're trying to make a career shift or upgrade, right? What are the most important things to me as I move towards a new role? Because we want to be moving towards something that we're really searching for, not just trying to move away from something. There's a lot more energy and power in doing that. What are my greatest skills, strengths, and passions that could provide unique value to a potential employer? So this is important. Am I willing to do what it takes and get out of my comfort zone? Okay, so just sort of a personal check. Can you answer these questions? Can you answer them clearly in a way that you feel confident doing so? If so, your foundation might be in a good spot. If not, then there's probably some work to do. So let's look at these three areas a little bit more in depth. We can talk about all of them more in depth, and I could do a whole session on every single one of these, but we're going to actually look at this idea of career clarity a little bit more, because it's something that a lot of people struggle with. Like, okay, where do I want to go? Engineers especially, where they have so many different angles and opportunities and options that they could take in their careers, and then making that decision, narrowing that focus, can be really difficult. So one way to look at our careers and kind of reframe this challenge of saying, what do I really want to do, is to look at our careers as a series of prototypes, right? So this photo is a picture of 3D printed things. And 3D printing is great because it allows us to cheaply, low cost, and quickly create prototypes of things that may have been much harder to manufacture in the past, right? For physical products. But how can we look at, can I run an experiment or run a prototype to have a conversation or try something, or even just look at the next stage of my career as a prototype in and of itself? To not say, I'm going to be locked in this forever, and if I make the wrong decision, then my whole life is on the wrong path. No, like let's diminish some of that pressure that we give ourselves and say, how can I think of this as an iterative process? You can think of it like this: like it's almost like a mini version of a simplified version of the scientific method. We have a hypothesis, something we want to try. We try it, we run an experiment, we analyze, see how that went, collect the data, and then we say, okay, what's the next experiment I want to try? What's the next stage, right? And we keep doing this throughout our careers. We're not stuck in one thing, right? Another way to look at career clarity is to look at it from like, it's like a guiding light, a North Star that guides where we want to go and keeps us pointing in that right direction. Also, I use the image on the right to represent filters, right? I use an air filter for my furnace and air conditioning system to make sure that it's filtering out some of the bad stuff. We can think about getting clarity in our careers as a filter for, hey, these things are not things that I want in my career, and these are things that I do want. If something's not meeting that criteria, I'm going to filter that out and I'm going to narrow that focus, right? So a few different ways to look at this to help you understand, okay, this isn't some magical treasure map where you're going to map out the next 10, 20 years of your career and have every step along the way mapped out. That seems a little too lofty to me. Let's simplify this and think about what can we really do here that's easier and actionable. So I actually want to give you a few moments to consider some of this for you and do an activity. We're going to take 60 seconds. And I want you to write about the non-negotiables. If you were to make a career shift or an upgrade or change in responsibilities, what would those things be that are just so important to you that you have to have, that are the most important things to you, right? In your career. And bonus, you can do this now or later. Think about why they are so important to you. What is the reason that makes them so important to you? Kind of helps you dig into some of those deeper motivations that you have. And then you can use these ideas as part of your intention as you move through potential options and opportunities, right? So I'll give you about 60 seconds to start writing this. Take out a journal, even if you just have a sticky note or something, just start writing out these things that are really important to you as you think about taking the next step in your career. About 20 or 30 more seconds. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful to at least get you started. And hopefully that gives you a little bit of momentum. And certainly after our session, if you want to keep going on that, that's something you can continue to go forward with and say, how do I dig deeper here and figure out what I really want. But it's just one of many activities that we could do to help you dig into what's really important to you in your career and how do you use that as a guiding light and intention for where you want to go. We talked a little bit about foundation. At this point, we need to build on our foundation to navigate creating an effective strategy. And a strategy, when it comes to career transitions, is made up of a few different things. So certainly there's some, and these are really pragmatic things. So something that probably people think of a lot are, what do I do with my resume and my LinkedIn profile, right? And do I need to be navigating, talking to people on LinkedIn and all this stuff? Yes, absolutely. We need to do those things. We need to do those things well. Something a lot of people neglect perhaps is using an effective networking strategy and reaching out to people. How do we connect with them, meet up with people in events or other things, and expand our relationships and our network with people who might be able to help us land our next opportunity, right? Strategy is kind of doing the right things in the right way. And let me just share kind of a fun historical example of why strategy is so important. Because without a good strategy, it actually leads to inconclusive results, even if you have all the tools to make it happen. and might even have all the training and the skills, right? So this is a story from British naval history. In the early 1800s, the prevailing tactics of naval war was essentially that the fleets would get in a line, go parallel to each other, and fire broadsides at each other. Basically, this meant that whoever had the most ships with the most guns was going to win because they could inflict the most damage on the opposing fleet. It didn't matter too much how well trained they were because they were right next to each other and just the guns just needed to go off and it was going to explode on the other side. But there was a British admiral named Horatio Nelson in 1805 who had a problem in a battle called the Battle of Trafalgar. The British fleet was outnumbered by an armada of French and Spanish ships. They had sort of combined to disrupt British commerce at the time. And they were going to have a cross-channel invasion. So his captains and his men were actually better trained. The British were the best trained seamen, but he was so outnumbered that unless he changed tactics, even with superior training, he was still going to lose. So he had to change his strategy, right? He had to do things differently. So what he did is he actually broke the British fleet into two lines. Instead of going parallel, he went perpendicular to the combined Spanish-French armada. That meant that his lead ships were going to take a great risk, but he judged that the less trained Franco or Spanish gunners would not be able to compensate for what was going to happen and all the confusion that was going to create. They'd never dealt with this before. And therefore, that would allow his more experienced and better trained British captains and gunners to really capitalize on what happened after that. He was actually proved right. And by doing things differently, the French and the Spanish lost 22 ships that day, which was about 2/3 of their fleet, and the British lost none. Okay, so a good strategy in this case led to good results. Different strategy led to different results than doing the same things than he otherwise would have done. And that's the same with us in our career. We can turn, with a great strategy, we can turn challenges into opportunities. It allows us to do things differently than other people do. Therefore, we can get different or better results, right? Rather than just doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, and gives you the tools to succeed. So I'm curious, just with regards to job hunting and stuff like that, what do you think is the average number of applications that are submitted for a corporate job posting? Okay, so we're just going to type in a number. An average corporate job posting, how many applicants or resumes do you think get submitted there? So type in a number, and then we'll do a countdown in just a moment. And then you can submit that in 3, 2, 1, go. See 399, 150, over 4,500. Okay. Now, the thing is, any of these numbers could be true for a particular job opening, but the data suggests that on average, a corporate job posting attracts about 250 resumes or applications, right? Could be higher, could be lower, but that's kind of the average number. And so if you think about this, of all these candidates, maybe an average of 5 or so, sometimes less, sometimes more, will actually get an interview. But only one gets the job, obviously. So it's about a 2% chance of getting an interview if you just put in an application, and a less than 0.5% chance of getting the job. Now, I don't know. And so if you're trying to get a new job opportunity or make a transition, have you put in over 250 applications to beat those numbers? Do you even want to? It's not something that I would want to do, but yet it is still something that a lot of people are doing. I was talking to someone today that they're like, yeah, I'm putting in 50 to 100 applications a week. That's crazy, right? And I consider this to be a bad career strategy where we search LinkedIn, Indeed, other job boards for hours and hours. We apply, and hope for the best, right? And maybe we might find a recruiter in that company and say something like, hey, I applied for this job. I'd be excited to work with you. But usually that recruiter doesn't get back to us. We get little response, right? I see this all the time, and yet people keep doing it over and over and thinking that they're gonna that something's gonna happen there. And so this reminds me of the quote attributed to Einstein that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. But that's crazy. I don't think any of you are actually crazy, which is why you're here. We're trying to learn different ways to do this, right? A better career strategy, if you're trying to make a career transition upgrade, is to leverage your foundation, like your personal brand, to optimize your LinkedIn and your resume, to identify companies that you're interested in working for and align with your purpose and your values and your skills, to proactively and intentionally reach out to individuals in those companies, ask for conversations, informational interviews to build some relationships rather than just asking for a job. Build relationships with people, gain advocates, which will actually lead to you getting job interviews. And eventually this will leading to you refreshing your career and opportunity that really suits you, that's aligned because you did things differently than most people. Okay. So this is just one example, but something that I think could be utilized much more effectively by a lot of people. And maybe there's some changes you can make here, and more effectively implement a better career strategy. Okay. So we've laid the foundation. We've started taking a different strategy, and then the opportunities come, and it's time to really execute. Execution is around making the most of those opportunities, and opportunities like interviews, job interviews, and negotiations, right? Because the last thing you want to do is when you have a job interview is to go in unprepared, knowing little about the company, the people that are going to interview you, the requirements of the role, and how that can really connect with your skills. You certainly also don't want to get a job offer and then not try to negotiate, because if you do that, or if you negotiate ineffectively, you're going to leave money on the table. In fact, research suggests that even like seasoned executives who are negotiating deals and contracts all the time, about 80% of them leave money on the table in their negotiations. So if us as engineers who probably don't have a whole lot of formal training in negotiations, we're probably leaving money on the table too. And over the course of your career, this can result in millions of dollars lost, because if you don't start with at a higher number at every job you have, and job and increases, and how that compounds over the course of your career of 20, 30, 40 years, however long you're going to work, that's a lot of money, right? So don't let this be you to go into these situations unprepared. So you want to be able to make the most of every opportunity, right? You don't want to be leaving with feelings of regret. And really, this is an opportunity for you to maximize your career transition into something that's not just good, but as great as it can be. Okay, so I want to introduce you to kind of this little matrix here to think about how interview skills and negotiation skills can impact you, right? So obviously, if they're high, this is going to lead to good results, career and financial growth. But if your perhaps negotiation skills are high and interview skills might be a little low, this is where people start to look at you as perhaps overqualified, right? You're trying to negotiate really high, but you're not interviewing quite right. And sometimes people might be forced to take a step back. If your interview skills are high, but your negotiation skills are low, you're going to get opportunities, but you might feel underpaid and resentful because you're not negotiating that compensation as well. And if both of them are low, that might lead to minimal opportunities, right? So think about you, is there, where do you land on this matrix, which quadrant? And I put numbers next to them, I'll go back to it. Is there one of these that you find yourself in right now? 1, 2, 3, or 4, right? Where do you land on the skills for these two things? And all that really is going to tell you is where you have an opportunity to work on, right? It's not something to be shameful about, but just say, hey, I can get better at this as I continue to move forward. I need to work on this. So tell me 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the chat. We'll go 3, 2, 1, go. Which where do you find yourself on this matrix right now? Just put the number into the chat like we have in the past. Okay. So some people say 3. So you got to work on both of these, right? Yes, maybe you're sort of in between, right? And so yeah, you can find yourself in a lot of different places and in different situations. So really just an opportunity for you to say, okay, where do I need to what do I need to work on? And then we can work on that. But unless you know, right, and identify that, then it's hard to actually make that change. Let me just give you an example of someone who worked on this. So I'll call him James. I changed his name here to protect his anonymity, but he was an experienced civil engineer. He was a professional engineer. He had big career goals, um, and he had another company than the one that he was currently working for reach out to him. They were excited to bring him in to potentially help them build out some new skills and use some of his particular passions that he was really excited about. And they saw an opportunity for him to do great work for them. So he wanted to explore this opportunity, and he knew he had an opportunity to negotiate, but he also wanted to keep his relationships intact at his current company because he really appreciated and respected them. Okay. So we went through and adjusted his approach and created a plan. We got down to what was most important to him as he made this transition and make sure, first of all, that this was the right shift for him. And we put together a negotiation plan. In the end, he accepted a new job offer with the higher growth trajectory and an immediate raise that was over $20,000 per year. And we also planned out how to have that I'm leaving discussion because he really wanted to validate those relationships that he built over the previous few years at his existing organization. So that's just one example of what's possible if you can do this well, right? You can make the most of those opportunities, and he was really excited about what he was able to do there. Okay. So we built up the foundation, we created a strategy, and we started to execute. Now, surrounding this whole process is getting support and help that you need to help you move through this experience. And this can happen through community, connecting with others that can support you along the way, and also getting some coaching, training, or mentoring. And we need support as we move through any big change, certainly in our careers. We're social beings, whether as engineers we like to admit that or not. And as technical professionals, we can have a particular tendency to get stuck in our own heads, and that can be difficult. Maybe you've experienced feeling like you're in analysis paralysis, like, there's just so many things going on, and we want to like collect all the data and get all the answers, but then we don't actually take action on it, right? But having a connection with others creates a shared experience and helps us feel like we're not alone, right? And helps us have some increased accountability so we don't stay stuck wherever we're at. And my experience personally and in working with dozens and dozens of people is that moving through big personal or career transformations, it's exhausting. It drains us emotionally, psychologically, and it's really hard to do alone, right? And I'm just a believer that virtually nothing in our life should be done completely alone. We need trusted people on our team in our corner to help us be successful, and going through a career change is no different, right? So if you're looking for so I highly suggest, and I'm a little bit biased here, but getting a mentor or coach to help you. But here's a few things to consider if you're going to do that. You want to be looking for someone who successfully helped others navigate through similar challenges you're facing. That ideally they'd have intimate personal experience in the industry you're in, or at least related industries, and have contacts across the industry that can help you get some insider information or connect you with people who have some increased influence that might be helpful for you. And obviously you want someone who has the resources, the time, and attention to really help sure you're making progress and don't stay stuck along the way. You shouldn't be looking for someone who doesn't have any previous experience to back up results with clients or anything, little to no experience in your chosen industry, have a network that's less influential than your own, or is simply just going to give you ideas and not actually help you implement them, right? And so just things to consider if you're going to really invest in yourself and get some extra help to accelerate this process for you. Okay, so just kind of zooming out, looking at this whole process, if you're going to make an intentional career transition, this is the formula to do it. Create the foundation with mindsets, career clarity, personal branding, establish an effective strategy through resume, LinkedIn, and networking strategies. Make the most of those opportunities, execute well when you get the interviews and negotiations, and then get the support that you need through community and focused coaching to help you make the progress and the transition you're hoping to make. And I promise you, if you utilize the principles in this formula in your career, that things will accelerate for you. I've seen it over and over and again. Okay. Now, I hope that I've kept my promise. At the very beginning, I promised you that by the end of this training, you'd have some clear actions and adjustments that you need to make an intentional career transition or upgrade. I really hope that you feel like I've kept that promise, because I hope that I did. But are you all good from here? Maybe it's kind of a yes or no, yes and no, right? Because you could think about Warren Buffett, who's one of the richest men on the planet, an investing guru. He could explain investing strategy in one sentence. You buy low, you sell high, and only invest in things you understand. Now, I get that, but I'm not a billionaire like Warren Buffett is yet. But it is the details that make the difference and how we do that. What I found is people who are really committed to finding the answers are the people who succeed, even if things aren't looking great right now, even if they have to pay or invest in themselves for it. That's what Jay did. That's what dozens of other people I've seen really make results. And so you've got a lot of things perhaps still to figure out, even with this framework that we've talked about here today. And these are just a few questions you may still need to consider, like what direction do you really want to take your career? How do you showcase your personal brand to potential employers? How do you craft a great resume or LinkedIn profile? How do you get recruiters and hiring managers to talk to you? How do you get more interview opportunities beyond what you have right now? How do you negotiate your offer? Where can you find the mentoring and support that you need? And so many more, maybe everything else that you don't know right now. And so you've got a couple of choices here. You can try and figure out this for yourself, or I would love to help. I can show you actually the entire system that has helped many engineers like you get life-changing career upgrades. In fact, I recently ran the numbers and found that people who worked with me in my career coaching program got new job opportunities 40% faster than average, and increased their compensation by 20 to sometimes 100%. So doubling their previous compensation, and in a way that's all aligned with their career foundation, right? So if you'll bear with me, I want to take just a few minutes to describe this opportunity to work with me, what's included, and then we'll have some time at the end for open Q&A, whatever questions you have. I want to be able to answer to help you feel satisfied about the program, or just anything that we talked about today. I want to be helpful and give you that time. So my program is called the Engineering Career Accelerator Program, designed for engineers to move through these intentional career transitions. So we move through a number of modules and activities to help you do that. So we solidify your mindset. This is some of that foundational work. We want to get your mind right, reframe challenges and opportunities, help change how you see people as you move through this process, help you get career clarity and act on that to unleash your potential, to solidify your personal brand. And then we go into the strategic actions to optimize your approach to LinkedIn, to make it easy to know where to do first, because there's a lot that you can do on a platform like this. How to increase your connection fast, a lot of other things. We want to make sure that your resume is on par and actually excellent. So it's something that recruiters are really looking for, and also teach you how to customize it for every job without feeling like you're rewriting it every time. I want to give you really focused networking strategies so that you can focus on the companies, not just looking at job boards, utilize the power of informational interviews, and create and cultivate meaningful relationships that are going to help you throughout your career. We go through the execution phase to help you know how to really own the interview, building on that personal brand, know what you can research, learn how to tell your story and present yourself in the right way, and negotiate with confidence, so you don't make that mistake to not negotiate, and walk you step by step through that process to get the offer that you really deserve. And this is just online training that you get access to that could take you really far on its own. But I want to give you even more. Like we talked about, one of the key things is to get that extra community support, right? So we have weekly career mastermind sessions. We do 1 hour Zoom sessions every week. These are typically on Thursdays at this time, 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. And the goal here is to make sure you keep making progress and get that personalized help. I'm there facilitating. We've done these for over 2 years now, and we even have previous recordings that you can go watch to look at some of the things we've talked about in the past as well. We've kind of got a vault of resources there, so hundreds of hours of content. We also have an online community you get access to help increase your network and help each other. You get access to. So everything you get in the program, these 7 modules, a bunch of bonus, you get PDF guides and templates in there. You get the weekly Career Mastermind, 2 years of Career Mastermind archives, an online community, and unlimited email support from me. I put the asterisk there because if you're insane and send me an email multiple times a day, probably going to boot you out and send you on your way. But I help people all the time, and I want to help you. Just don't go crazy on me. I am a human, right? But in addition to that, most people will get one-on-one coaching with me. This is live coaching, personalized one-on-one, just you and me. We'll do documentation reviews. We'll help you break through some of the mindset barriers. We'll help you get clarity. Anything that you need help with, we're going to make sure that we've talked about tonight. We're going to make sure that you feel confident in moving forward on that path to your career transition. I've worked with people who have gotten jobs across some of the most well-known companies you can think of. These are just a few of them, but there's many more: national labs, big tech firms, and small mid-sized startups, every type of company you can imagine. And even help people get upgrades. Just this last week, one of the people I'm working with got a promotion that they're really excited about, right? And that's something they were working on. There's also a bunch of bonuses you get access to. I have something I call the Hiring Insiders Vault, talking to HR professionals and recruiters and others to say, hey, what's the insider's look? What does this really look like? And how can you understand that a little bit more? You also get access to my network. I've actually over 20,000 people that I'm connected to and who follow me on LinkedIn. Happy to make introductions if I can. If I can open doors, I've done this with a lot of people, and sometimes just that can make all the difference. So if this all sounds good to you, something that might be exciting, then we should talk about this and see if this is a fit for you. Because no matter where you're at on this kind of career ladder, you can make that switch. You can cross that line to be more intentional, to grow with more purpose, and live the career and the life that you want to live. So you have a choice, right? And it's kind of going back to some basic Newtonian physics. One of Newton's laws of motion says that an object at rest will stay at rest unless it's acted upon by an outside force, right? And so if you're feeling like you're at rest in your career in some way, if you're out of a job or feeling stuck in a job that isn't right for you, you have limited opportunities, or you just know that there's some change that you need to make, you're not sure how to make it, you can stay at rest, or you can join me and many others in the Engineering Career Accelerator program and get that outside force to accelerate this process and in your life and your career right now. So here's what you want to do next if you're interested. You can go to morethaneng.com/schedule-call. And I'll put this link in the chat in just a moment here, and you can schedule a time to talk with me. You'll see my calendar availability. but we'll discuss your unique challenges and goals. And if we are a good fit, we'll design a package specifically for your needs. Okay. And just as a reminder, you get a whole lot here to help you so that you can't not make progress here. All the online modules, all the guides and templates, so you get weekly group coaching, online community, email support from me, one-on-one coaching from me, bunch of bonuses in that side there, access to my network, the Hiring Insiders Vault, the personal development video playlist, so much more. So all you got to do is schedule time to talk. We'll make sure this is a good fit for you. Okay. And again, you can upgrade your career 40% faster, increase your wages by 20 to 100%, all aligned with your career foundation. So if you're still here, you've watched the entire presentation, you want to transform your career, you know this is something you need help with, I just invite you to take advantage of this and all the bonuses and community support and one-on-one coaching that you can get, because success principles is to do what works, not what doesn't. So get training and support, even if it's not from me, right? And persevere and keep moving towards what you want to become. As Jonathan said at the very beginning before we started recording, don't give up, just keep moving forward. So a couple of things here. If you want to schedule that call, this is a QR code on the right side. And for anyone, I mentioned I'm in the midst of writing a book. If you want to join what it's called, the Book Army, and get insights into some of the things I'm writing and get maybe some discounts and kind of early access to some things on the book, then you can join the Book Army and you'll get on that list for what that is. I'll throw these links into the chat here so you can get those. Make it a little bit easier for you. And then I'm open for questions here. If anyone has questions, anything goes, don't be shy. Just want to be helpful in any way here. So does anyone have a question that I can help answer here with the time that we have? Question about any of the principles we talked about, any of the resources you might get in the program. And if you haven't already, if we haven't chatted one-on-one, I highly encourage you to book a call with me.
How are you doing?
Good, Jonathan. Jonathan is actually I'll call him a star student. He and I worked together for a few months and landed a cool new opportunity that he's excited about. So thanks for being here, Jonathan. Glad to have you.
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. It's been a busy week here. We had my oldest boy turned three this week, and my oldest daughter just started school today. So been a lot going on this week.
It is busy.
Yeah. All right. So we've got a question here from Rod. How to approach a scenario when you want to change field? Rod, if you're willing to unmute and just give a little more context to that question, sure. I'd love to talk through that.
And, it's like I'm consider that my career was fine, and I'm have long time in career in high tech, like considerable time at Microsoft. It's a good company. Company was good to me, but I found myself kind of lost passion. What I'm doing is sometimes I get an offer from like people talk from Amazon, Google, or Facebook about different opportunities. But when I talk to him, I realize it's same thing. It's just different house.
Yeah.
And I always like to lead for people. I always believe you have to develop people, build team. And my motto always was, you lead team, you manage business, and you mentor people.
Yeah,
and
I like it.
Found more and more like passion about this field. I want to transition something like that. And it doesn't need to be same money. I don't expect to get same money like Microsoft pay, maybe, but it's something that maybe I can feel more personally passionate about it and excited and more fulfillment. It's more like even give back, like share my experiences, because for a long time in high tech, I'm sure I had to deal with different scenarios and had big share of my mistakes and
Mhm.
situation that I could do better. So, and I have hard time to figure out how to shift because I don't have really foundation, but same time I have a lot of foundation because I had to deal with a lot of crucial conversation, critical situation, and like performance issue, schedule issue. You can just name it. Maybe I'm able to deal with them one time or another. And I cannot figure out what is the best way for this transition because I don't want to just drop everything and move there. I want to have kind of like evolution from one place to another. Then just cut everything and try to restart.
Yeah. So help me clarify here the different industry or field that you're trying to do, because you've got all this experience in high tech. You want to stay in high tech, just a different sort of role, or you want to move out of high tech into a related type
It
of
doesn't
thing?
matter
Just
which area. Maybe in high tech could be easier, just
yeah,
more like organizational development or like people mentoring, but not through like be technical leader. Because as a technical leader, your main goal to deliver on your technical requirements.
right. Yeah. So it's a role shift, maybe in the same sort of
Yeah.
industry, but you don't want to be stuck in the back in the wheel of delivering technical projects
Yes.
again. Like you've been there, done that for a long
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and wanting to shift there. So I mean, I've worked with a number of people who made significant shifts across industries, from medical devices to green build sustainable buildings to from the defense industry into high tech. Jonathan, who's here, moved from astrophysics to national lab research and different things. So we've had a number of transitions like this. Really comes down to I think from you were talking about the foundation pieces. What comes to mind is how do we tell that story for you? How do we deliver the personal brand? Because you've done all these things, you probably have the skills and experiences to be able to deliver that value that you're wanting to do. But how are recruiters or potential employers going to see you as anything but a technical leader?
Exactly.
Right? That's a challenge. And obviously there's a lot more that we'd need to dig into to figure out how to make that happen. But that's probably the biggest piece. And that kind of personal brand is as an umbrella feeds into, I mean, you want to have a consistent story across what your documentation on LinkedIn and resume says and how you're networking and connecting with people. And certainly when you get to job interviews, they need to see, oh, this is who Rod is, right? And what he can do for us. And they need to be able to see that. And if you're having a hard time saying, this is what I want to do, but then they're like, okay, but this is what you've always done. And you're like, yeah, but
Yeah.
that's hard for them to have that confidence to have you make that shift if you don't know how to tell that story and bridge the gap, right? So I think that's probably the biggest opportunity or need for you to work on,
Yeah.
at least in the short term.
Yeah.
And certainly we could talk about doing that if we set up a call. I don't think we've
Thank
talked before, Rod. So I'd love to talk through that in more detail with you a little bit more.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. Any other questions or topics on the mind of anyone here? Love to help you in any way I can. All right. Well, if not, that's totally okay. And just invite you to say, if you're still here, there's probably a reason. And if you're not sure yet if this is something that you want to do, to have this conversation, I promise I won't bite. And there's no obligation if we end up having a conversation. That's part of the process, is to help you make the decision whether or not we're a good fit to actually work together. But I really care about your success. So the last thing I want you to do is do nothing, right? So let's at least have a conversation, or if you don't feel like I'm the right person to help you, then at least find someone who is, right? And so let's have the conversation, see if we're a fit, and I'd love to help you accelerate and move things forward. So please reach out, let's connect. And if I can do anything after this, I'll send you a follow-up email and everything with the recording to our session. But thanks so much for being here. Hope you all have a fabulous day and evening, and look forward to talking to any of you very soon. Take care.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Take care.